You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Hey everybody, we are back with Small Business Talk with Jerry. If you would like to, I'd like to introduce you to Zoe Bierman.
Hi.
So introduce yourself, Zoe. Kind of tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Zoe Bierman. I work over at Major & Company / Pivotal Wealth in Preston, Minnesota. Just still learning there and working with my associate Ron Schreier, and then Aiken Major is the owner of the company. So
yeah, Ron's been my accountant for years. Years when he was the owner, him and Tim. So now Aiken is his nephew, isn't he?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought. I haven't met Aiken yet, but I'm looking forward to it. At some point we'll have to get together. So today you're gonna talk about what's a write-off. We're gonna do a whole series.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
I invited Zoe in to do a series of podcast educational episodes, 8 to 12 minutes. So these are all gonna be pretty easy to digest. Mm-hmm. I understand it, so it's got to be pretty simple. So this will work out.
Knowledge
Zoe
is power.
That's
the
right.
more you know, the better we can help you.
That's right. That's right. Zoe will make it go smooth. But so today we want to talk about. We always joke about. Well, that's a write-off, like it's free, right? Mm-hmm. So let's chat a little bit about. Give us just your quick definition of a write-off.
Yeah. So a write-off essentially is anything that is like necessary or ordinary for your business.
Okay.
Okay. So like anything that. So if you have like a bakery business. If you go and buy like a mixer or a cake stand or something like that, then it's something that would be like what you consider a write-off an expense for your business that later you can then write off because then it's deducted from that business account because it was used for the business.
Okay.
So that's like the simple kind of definition of necessary and ordinary. It's not something that's completely like you're not going out and buying like a backhoe for your bakery because then that would throw up some red flags.
Right. Well, so now I run the front counter at my auto shop, so I have to be friendly with everyone and well rested. So some cool, expensive sheets and pillows would be a good write-off for me.
No.
Well, I tried.
I wish. If you have a few minutes in your office, you're like, I'm just going to take a siesta and go get yourself like a sauna or something like that. I don't know. It wouldn't work like that.
IRS agents would love you.
Yeah.
They would enjoy that. That would be a fun trip for them. Day trip.
Go call and be like, go check out Jared. I think he bought something you shouldn't have.
That wouldn't be the first time. I just don't usually get to. Ron always. That's I always told Ron. I said, when we first started working together. Long time ago, years ago, and I always told him. I said, I'm going to push the limits like every business owner, and I said, I don't need another friend. I need someone to keep me out of jail. Right?
Yeah.
keep me off the IRS's radar. Mm-hmm. So when I put something in there that doesn't work, I said, put up with me being argumentative about it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, just tell me, this is what you hired me for, and I will leave you alone. But so we've had that arrangement for years.
Yeah.
Such a good guy. So you've got a great mentor there if that's going to be the role.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
He is such a good man.
Anything I ask, he's like, yeah, I'll tell you. And then he'll joke. He's like, yeah, if you call me, he's like, I may or may not answer if you have any questions. But he's never not answered or not responded. So. Yeah.
See, you're in better company than I am then, because he does not answer for me all the time. So fair enough. So what do you tell a business owner when they I'm joking of course, but when I tell you I'm going to buy expensive sheets and pillows for my bed so I get a good night's rest so I can be good at work, that's got to be a write-off. Do you just get factual with people, or how do you handle that?
Well, handling that is essentially what you have to tell them, like, be honest, because honesty is the best policy, right? Yep. It's not like you can't be like, yeah, sure, do that, and then right off the IRS isn't going to care, It's you give advice that's going to literally protect yourself and protect them. Right. So it's not something that you're going to be like, yeah, that's fine, I need a nap. Maybe I can do that too. So no, I'd basically be like, no, is it, what, you run an auto shop, right?
Right.
Is that something that's going to help you fix cars?
Right.
Like, is it going to be...
How big of a reach is it?
Benefit? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it's like, getting pillows and sheets, no. No.
Right.
Don't do that. Buy it on your personal and you can bring it later. Don't write it off for like a business expense.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. You can. I mean, things like that. If the boss wants to give you a reimbursement on that, that's fine. He's just not gonna be able to write it off.
Right.
I mean, there's a difference there too between. I mean, like what I always tell people is, well, every write-off is an expense.
Sure.
Not every expense can be written off.
Right.
So you do have to take care of things like that. I mean, with Ron and I, we QuickBooks always uses like an accountant's file or a accountant's expense. And so when I have an expense and I don't know where it goes, I put it there.
Right.
And at the end of every month or quarter, when Ron's coming in, or when now as you start doing that, just have to go into that file and you see this row of things. It's like I didn't know where to put it.
Right.
So now it gives you that ability. And then there's always that question of, I know I had to spend the money. It's an expense, but where do we put this? Where can we use this to our benefit? And you just kind of try to give the puppy a dog eyes, but that doesn't work for me. I'm not that. It doesn't work.
You can try. You can try.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well. But so, do you have like verbiage that when you sit down with a new client and on what's expected of you of them when it comes to their write-offs, the expenses?
Well, first off, like using QuickBooks and something like that, using like a tracking system to then to track what you're bringing in. If you have to spend that money on something, make sure that you're documenting everything.
Sure.
Okay, especially if you're using it for your business, because then later on, if you're not sure of it, you ask my accountant or something. I'd like make a category for that.
Yep.
Otherwise, then you come bring us a whole bunch of receipts at the end of the year, or whoever your accountant is, you bring that in, and they're like, okay, did you actually need this? Was this personal? Was it, keeping track of stuff like that. I always tell everybody to make sure you make a list or have a good tracking system for
Sure.
that. And then if you're not sure, then ask your accountant or somebody being like, hey, I had to get this for A, B, and C. Just having a good system, it comes down to.
Right. Because some of that comes into, as an accountant, you can't, especially a young accountant, you can't know the ins and outs of every type of business yet. That takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's kind of a learning curve on both sides.
Yeah.
Really, it's you don't want to discourage the business owner from wanting to write things off,
Right.
of course. But on the same token, none of us want to be fined. None of us
Right.
want to be audited. None of us want worse,
Mm-hmm.
of course. So it is kind of a learning curve together sometimes when you're with a new industry.
Oh, absolutely. It's like everybody thinks that they can write off sometimes their whole life because, a lot of it, if they own their own business, if they are, the sole proprietor of their own business or whatever, own their own business, and they want to write off their whole life, but that's not always how that works,
Right.
So you got to be
Right.
able to, especially if you're starting off something, new, like, I don't know, like landscaping or something like
Sure.
that, just keeping track of everything. And then at the end of the day, always ask your accountant being like, hey, this might look like it's not, and I did buy it for the business, but like, where should I put it? Like,
Right.
at the end of the day.
Well, and two, there's things like using a personal vehicle for work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of a time-space scenario,
Yeah.
correct? Where you're not necessarily writing off the whole vehicle, but maybe just write off the mileage, or you write off certain aspects, unless you lease it by the company.
Right.
Then that's something to talk to your accountant about. I mean, we're not here giving legal advice or
No.
give accounting advice today.
Yes.
What these educational moments are going to be for the listeners is know what to ask. This isn't about, well, if you watch this educational minute, now you know how to be an accountant. Now you know how to do your business.
Mm-hmm.
No, now you know what questions to ask your accountant. And hopefully this, for those of you that maybe are just using a tax professional or a bookkeeper and don't actually have an accountant, this might change your mind a little bit as we go through these education modules, that realize you need an accountant. I mean, you would agree?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially with stuff like that you're not sure. Like, not everybody knows the ins and outs of like accounting or bookkeeping
Right.
on their own. It is a learning curve for
Right.
everybody, especially if you start your own business. There's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of moving pieces. And then you mentioned before, like the vehicle, if you're leasing your own vehicle through the company, mileage is a huge thing that people like want to write off every little mile, every little thing. To an extent, you can, but it has to be done the correct way.
Right. You can't guess.
Yeah.
You can't say, I probably put on 300 miles last week for the company.
Right.
You need a mileage log. You need and now especially with cell phones, the apps, it's the GPS apps that actually, I mean, there's so many ways to keep exacting files. And I've got to assume, I guess I don't know this, but I'm going to assume that as those tools become more available, the IRS is going to have expectation of using these tools, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, expecting more specific numbers, I mean, or tracking.
Right. Well, a lot of people also like to make the excuse, "Oh, I'm small potatoes," to bigger companies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They're not going to look at me, but the IRS can come and audit you if they want to. You know, they do have that power. So it's just making sure you have all your ducks in a row and everything like that. And mileage, like making sure that, if it was necessary for your business to write it off, if you're going to go visit a client, the time you need stuff in your vehicle, 67 cents a mile is, pretty good.
It's substantial.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can drive a pretty nice vehicle for 67 cents a mile. I mean, really, when you think about that.
Yeah.
So, and there's no, on that, again, to get specific, I guess, but that 67 cents a mile, it doesn't matter what you drive, what the gas mileage is, what the value of the vehicle is. It's just a flat rate, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it applies to all of us, whether you're driving something that costs you 12 cents a mile to drive or costs you $1.50 a mile to drive.
Yep.
Okay. So
67 cents across the board. Yep.
Across the board.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to touch on with what is a write-off? And we'll bring this one to an end.
I don't think so. I think we touched on a lot of little things. And, obviously, if we want to do another segment like this, about going a little bit more detail into it, then we absolutely can. But, yeah.
Well, you heard it, guys. Put something in the comments. If there's something you'd like to know about a write-off that wasn't here, if it's real specific, ask your accountant. I mean, we're going to finish every one of these with, we're not lawyers. I'm not an accountant. She is. But yes. So, but we're not giving advice on that. We're just giving advice on who to get advice from. So that's what it really boils down to. Try to lend a helping hand. Zoe, thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
We've got more to do, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Guys, everybody say goodbye to Zoe, and we will see you next time.